Hello and welcome to the Pre-Chiro Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass, and today we're making a professional chiro connection with Michelle Pascal. Michelle, can you introduce yourself by just sharing a little bit about what your background was before you decided to become a chiropractor and what was that attracted you to becoming a chiropractor?
Yeah, of course. So I have been a chiropractor for almost 5 years already, but pre-chiropractic college, I actually was going to go into nursing school. So totally different field. Uh, and I did my undergrad at San Jose State University, and I was very, very gung-ho on becoming a nurse until I volunteered at the hospital, and my heart just like wasn't in it. And then while I was still in undergrad, I transitioned in from nursing to kinesiology just because I knew that I was going to go into some form of higher education. I just didn't know what I was going to do yet. I looked into occupational therapy because my brother was an occupation is an occupational therapist. I looked into physical therapy because I had some family that did that. I looked into recreational therapy and I looked into chiropractic. When I was looking into chiropractic, I ended up shadowing a chiropractor out in Capitola, California, and I just loved his tableside manner. I loved what he did. I loved that people walked out of his office just super happy and just like ready to take on the day versus when you're leaving the hospital. I guess, you know, I left the hospital, but a lot of people didn't leave the hospital. Um, and so after I shadowed Dr. McWhorter, I also saw him like adjust a baby, and that like blew my mind. I was like, "Oh my god, it's like a newborn baby." This baby was like 5 days old, um, and I just fell in love. I looked into chiropractic a lot more, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
Mm. And can you kind of talk about once you made that decision, like what were some challenges or struggles that you encountered? Was it a smooth transition from heading in the direction of nursing to heading towards chiropractic, or was it pretty smooth? Was it easy for you to make that transition? Like, what were some maybe surprises or obstacles that you had to overcome in going into chiropractic school?
Yes, so it was. I want to say it was fairly easy because nursing is the beginning of nursing is heavy science, right? So I had to take anatomy, physiology, all of that stuff. And then transitioning to kinesiology, it's like even more focused on the human body, right? So that was like awesome because I had already taken, like athletic injury classes. Like I knew some orthopedic tests because I had to take classes with athletic trainers. And so, because you had this like jumble of people that were going to go out into those health sciences that they had to um, they really had to like focus the curriculum on the human body, right? And so that part was very easy. Like the school part was very easy. The most challenging thing that I found was finding a school that I wanted to go to. uh, like I said, I did my undergrad here at San Jose State University, and I grew up in San Jose, California, and I was like, I gotta get out. And all my family and friends were like, why don't you just go to the Palmer, like down the street? Like it's not too far. But I was like, I think it's time to branch out. And even people were like, why don't you go to Life West in Hayward? I was like, well, I don't think I want to go to Life West in Hayward. I looked into for a little bit, I wanted to do chiropractic and acupuncture. So I looked at Texas Chiropractic College, and I want to say the Southern California Chiropractic College has one, or Health Sciences, whatever. Um, so it was difficult for me to narrow down where I wanted to go. Um, but I ended up going to Palmer, Florida. Well, my one of my mentors was like, "You don't want to do chiropractic and acupuncture together at the same time. It's going to be too much for you." And I was like, "No, it's not going to be too much for me." But then hindsight, yeah, chiropractic college was a lot. Um, So I ended up going to Palmer, Florida, which I think was a good decision for me at the time. Um, but there were even some difficulties with that choice.
Can you describe like what the experience was moving to Florida, like having to pick up and leave a city that you had been born and raised in, spent your undergrad in, and arriving down in Daytona and like a completely, uh, chiropractic school is a completely different environment. It's a little bubble. So, like, what
Hmm.
were some surprises you encountered, or like, what was it that made that transition maybe like healthier or helpful for you? Like, what helped you make that transition?
Yeah. So moving from California to Florida, one, it's a very long journey. And I drove my car, right? And so driving my car out there was definitely an experience. It's wonderful though, right? You get to kind of travel the back roads of everything and the back roads of America. So that was super fun. And then arriving in Daytona Beach, for me, as somebody that grew up in the Bay Area, that's super diverse, super, yeah, the one, it's just super diverse, right? If I want really good Chinese food, I could go down the street. If I want good Vietnamese food, it's right there too. Good Indian food, Ethiopian food. It's just a melting pot here in the Bay Area. So going to Port Orange, Florida was definitely a little bit of a shock. Um, and I'm not gonna say that I didn't fall in love. I loved going to school there. I loved Port Orange. I still visit there every now and then. But it was definitely different than California. And luckily, I'm the type of person that makes friends very like easily. And so once we did our orientation for our class, which we had the biggest class at the time, there were 94 of us starting in the fall, and I made friends very, very easily. And like you said, it's a bubble, right? It's kind of like you're going back to high school. Um, and you see these people all the time. And so I made pretty good friends with the people in my section. Um, and so the transition for me wasn't too bad. I think, I mean, the first time I like got sick out there, I was like, oh man, I wish my mom was around. Because I never lived 3,000 miles from my family before. Uh, but no, it's a great experience because once you find those great people in your life and great friends, like some people that I went to chiropractic college with are still my best friends today. So it was not too hard for me, but I know that it was hard on some people, um, especially people that, like we had friends that moved from like Washington State all the way down to Florida. And I'm like, that's a lot further. That's also further than California too. Um, but even some people locally had kind of a challenge.
Hmm.
So I think it's really just up to you, and it's really up to the person and their mentality. Like I always say, like, you're gonna get out of it what you put into it, right? So if you're thinking that you're gonna have a challenge, you're gonna have a challenge. But I went into it thinking like, oh, these are gonna be the best 3.5 years of my life. It's gonna be really, really hard. I have to really study, but in the end, it's gonna be fantastic.
What were some of the resources you tapped into, or the clubs, or the groups, or the mentors that you acquired early on? Like, what were you attracted to? Was it something that you went into school already being aware of, or was it something you discovered once you got there?
Yeah. So going into chiropractic college, I did want to take care of like the pediatric community. And so I tapped into pediatric club pretty early. Actually, that first quarter, I went to a bunch of clubs. I went to the pediatric club, I went to the Gonstead club, I went to the Grostic club. Um, I was interested in it all because, I mean, you go into chiropractic college and you think that you want to do one thing, but you really don't know because you've never tried any of the other things, right? I had a colleague, a classmate who was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be like an ART doc. Like, this is what I'm gonna do." Now he's a NUCA doc, or like now he's an upper cervical chiropractor. So it's totally different, right? You go in with like this preconceived notion of what you want to do, but you could totally flip that around. And so I went in knowing that I wanted to take care of pediatric patients. So I tapped in with the pediatric club. I tapped in with the ICPA, because as a student, why not? You get all of that stuff for such an affordable rate, versus when you're like a doc already. And most of those ICPA classes you could take as a student. Um, so I highly suggest that if you are into pediatrics to do that. That's like something that's really it's really good. Um, mentors wise, I uh, I still have a really close relationship with my mentor. His name is Dr. Michael Shreve. He taught um, he taught philosophy at Palmer, Florida, and that's something that was lacking in the curriculum at the time. But like Dr. Shreve was amazing, and he taught like pretty much all of the philosophy there. And so I kind of latched on to him, and there was a group of three of us that would go into his office hours every Wednesday, um, and we would just chat about chiropractic, any of the questions that we had around what was going on in our classes, if we had any issues with our classes, like uh, we would be able to voice them to him, and he would be able to be like, okay, well, you know, these are the issues and these are how you guys can solve them. And then once we got into clinic, we did the same thing, and then it was patient care, right? It was like, hey, who's your most complicated case? What are you stumped on? uh, what can I help you on? Because he has, 40 plus years of experience, and we have zero. And so it was really good to be able to do that. And even if I have a difficult case now, I could call him, and I know that he'll pick up, and I know that he will walk me through it. um, and he's not somebody that will tell me exactly what to do. He wants us to critically think, right? And I think that that was something that was lacking in our curriculum as well. It was, you're learning and you're going to have to regurgitate everything for boards, right? We weren't learning how to critically think about a patient and patient care. And so tapping into a mentor is super, super important.
Can you give an example? Like the words that come to my mind are like lateral thinking, thinking through a scenario, the different possibilities of how you approach it, and the different possibilities of outcomes as a result of the different approaches. But like, can you elaborate on critical thinking and its importance not only in chiropractic practice, but also as you're going through school?
Yeah. So it's it's hard it's hard not to critically think when you're talking about patient care, because everybody's different. You can't just look at them on paper. You still have to do an exam, right? Right? And so you have to kind of line those things up. Yes, you can see what's on paper and you could probably guess to what's going on with them, how you can, help the person. But you also have to think about, the- especially in chiropractic, because and I focus on the upper cervical for for pediatrics as well, right? So I always have to think like, okay, can Atlas solve this problem? If I adjust the atlas, can it help the gut, right? Which we all know, yes, it can. But if it can't, what do I have to do, right? So you always have to start with that one thing that you think that it's gonna happen, versus like I have to tell the parents this all the time, like, hey, I'm gonna adjust the atlas on the first visit if it's out, but I don't want you guys to fret because I will check the rest of the spine, the next time you guys come in. But I want to see if Atlas is going to cause if Atlas is going to fix this issue versus if I threw everything at them. If I said Atlas is out, L3 is out, sacrum's out, your big toe's out, what do I know? Like, do I know what's actually helping them? Right. And so that's how I think about critically thinking about patient care is like not doing too much either. Like thinking about the person, making sure you do a thorough exam on them. Like do not miss anything. And, you know, create your treatment plan, create, what you're going to do with them. And with me, it's very easy. I adjust only. Um, but for some people, they want to throw a bunch of modalities at somebody too. And I'm like, okay, but you really need to see what's going to work on the person first, because you can't just keep throwing everything. You can't throw the kitchen sink at them all the time, right?
Can you kind of reflect on these last 5 years in practice? What's the quality of life that you've been able to enjoy, your lifestyle, just like how you live your life as a chiropractor, how you've set up your office, but also how you've designed your life?
Yeah. So I started my office right out of chiropractic college. Actually, I spent about 4 months working for another chiropractor. 2 of those months were while I was getting my license, and then 2 months just to kind of make some money so that when I opened my office, I had some money. Uh, so that's been amazing. My office grows every year. It's been booming. Even through COVID, it was amazing. Um, but having my own business has allowed me to, it allows me to take the time off when I need to take the time off, right? It allows me to create my own schedule. Um, it allowed me to it also allowed me to I am a professor at I'm an adjunct professor at Life West as well. So like it kind of allowed me to take that to take a job there as their business teacher. Um, and it's just allowed me so many things. Like being a chiropractor is amazing. Um, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. There's so many great things about it. It's definitely helped me view the world differently. It's helped me view the body differently. I take care of myself a little more than I used to. Even through chiropractic college, you're super stressed through chiropractic college. Um, and most of the time you're like broke, so like you're not eating well. Um, you might be exercising because like, it's easier to exercise when you're younger, but now it's kind of one of those things. I try to live my life the way that I tell my patients to live their lives. Not my pediatric patients, but my older patients. But yeah, chiropractic has given me this life that I would not trade for the world.
Are you teaching business systems and procedures? Like, can you maybe talk a little bit more about your business class and like why you took that role and where your passion is within that?
Yeah. So uh, I started teaching there a year ago. This is going to be I'm going into my fourth quarter. So I've already done my first year of second chiropractic college, as I say. And I started teaching the intro to business class. I think it's called like social entrepreneurship and leadership. So that's like very fresh. I have first and second quarters, and they're fantastic. I love them. They're great. It's probably one of my favorite classes to teach because they're so gung ho about everything. I the the curriculum for that class is heavy in the Book Yourself Solid workbook, right? So we're creating their ideal clients, their target markets, teaching them how to talk about themselves and what they do without just being like, "Hey, I'm a chiropractor." But I also teach them about branding. I also pull from different avenues to come in to talk to them, right? Not just chiropractors, but web designers or marketers or anything like that, so they kind of understand what's going on. I also teach a senior course, which is the Launch Your Business course. So that is getting them ready to start a business. So we go over statistics, lots of spreadsheets. I also have them do the Book Yourself Solid workbook all the way through. The early class only gets to do 4 chapters, but the senior class gets all of it, all 90 something pages of it. And so, what else do we do in that class? It really is just making sure that they are ready to open up their business or become an associate. So we also do associate considerations, but it's really creating that ideal practice for them, so that
Hmm.
even if they become an associate and one day they open up their own business, they'll be ready. And so I love teaching both of those classes.
Hmm.
They're amazing. I got into it because Dr. Chayal was the department chair at the time, and he is actually now the president of the Scotland Chiropractic College. And I was very upset when he left me, but he had reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, I have you in mind for this. Like, you're in San Jose, that's not too far from Hayward, and you're young and you have a successful business, and we want to have you on the team." And I said, "All right, let's do it." And so that's kind of what led me to becoming a professor. I didn't think that I was going to do it this early.
Hmm.
I thought that I was too young to become a chiropractic professor, but I guess not. Uh, and it's been a fun ride.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you have any like recommended resources for prospective students to get exposure to? So you said that you do upper cervical work on pediatric people,
Yeah. Hmm.
populations.
Yeah.
What were some of the programs you studied within, or like who like helped you better understand maybe how to do a proper exam on that population and how to take outcome measures? Like what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So let's start with the outcome measures. That was pulled from like like I did Grostic in chiropractic college, but I don't have like a baby Titron, right? And some of those it's a little harder to do. So I take Atlas Fawcett temperatures, but also like how to do a thorough exam, how to adjust a baby's spine. I did ICPA classes. Those were amazing for me. I think that's the greatest resource that I tapped into. Uh, but pre-chiropractic college, I honestly, I want to say just visit schools. Like that's the biggest thing I could say, because I did not. I like barely visited schools. I just got all of like the informational leaflets, right? And that's not really anything. Like you should see how happy the people are on campus. And that's like, it's weird to say, but I've gone to some chiropractic campuses where these students are not happy. But then I've gone to, like, I was just at Sherman for Lyceum, and even the students there are happy. And it's great. It's fantastic to see. I mean, my students at Life West, like I always see them, and they're pretty happy too. So find somewhere that you'll fit. Find, go to all of the prospective student um, events, because I feel like they have those, multiple times a year, and see what the culture's like. See if there are people that will help you out. But that's like the best resource, I think, for me to figure out what you want to do or where you want to go, because that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest hiccup is where you want to go with chiropractic college. Um, yeah.
Hmm. So like knowing what you know now, I mean, I'm sure you feel good that you went to Palmer, Florida, and you had a great time there. But if you were recommending students like which schools to check out, just because they can't check all of them out, there's too
Hmm.
many different places they would have to fly to. What would be like maybe your top five or top 10?
Yeah. Um, well, I'm biased, so I would say check out Life West. You went to Life West, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm biased. I'd say check that out. Another one that I would check out is Sherman. Those are my definitely my top two. And then from there, another this is another bias because they're just opening up. Is check out the Scotland Chiropractic College. You could be one of the founding students of that school. Um, but you know what, I don't have that many that I would recommend. It's hard because I think it's hard because I'm so heavily like focused on philosophy, and I don't think that most schools are teaching philosophy very well. And so it's very hard for me to recommend a lot of these schools because I feel like you're not going to get what you're not going to get what you should be getting from them. But I know that luckily as a professor at Life West, like I know the professors, like I know the curriculum there. Um, and I know a lot of the professors at Sherman as well. And I know the leaders of Sherman. And so I know that these students are going to get what they pay for.
Mm-hmm. And
So
you're
top
involved with the
three.
ICPA as well. Can you talk about your involvement with them, why you got involved, why you support that organization?
Yeah, I'm a member of the ICPA. A lot of my colleagues and friends are actually teachers of their curriculum, which I love because I get to see them whenever they come around. Um, but the reason I love the ICPA is it's it's an amazing organization. It's I was taught the Webster technique by Jeannie Ohm, and before she passed, and that was the best class I think I ever took. I mean, it was a weekend seminar, but her passion for chiropractic, like the people that they get to teach their classes have such a passion for chiropractic and such a passion for helping pediatric and pregnant women. Like it's amazing, and I can't endorse them enough. They're like the gold standard for if you want to learn how to adjust pediatric population. Yeah.
And you just reflecting on San Jose State, I mean, there's probably hundreds of students that either wanted to become nurses, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, or physicians to take care of the pediatric population, right? I mean, hundreds.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
out of that group of, let's just say, 300 students, probably at least 10%, if they found out that chiropractors took care of pediatric populations in the way that they did and the results they got, they would probably be like, wow, I want to do that, right? I mean, they just
Yeah.
don't know. There's no presence, right?
Yeah. Nobody, they do not know. Even in the kinesiology department, I want to say there's a chiropractor that came by to talk to us, and it was about like sports chiropractic. It wasn't, everybody thinks about that. And I think that's why I fell in love with chiropractic when I saw my mentor adjust a baby. I was like, I didn't know that you can do that. And that's what I've built my practice around is adjusting kids and toddlers. Like that's my favorite. Don't get me wrong, I love adjusting adults, but if I had to choose, one population to serve, it would be the pediatric community. And you're
Mm-hmm.
right, there's not enough exposure to pediatric chiropractic in it anywhere. I get that all the time. Like, wait, why would you need to adjust a baby? And we're like, hey, their spine and nervous system is just as important as yours. Actually, it might be more important because they're developing. Um, so yeah, I hope that this can help some of those students kind of figure it out.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you sharing. And um, yeah, is there any way that students can connect with you if they have further questions, whether it be through social media or online?
Yeah, so you guys can find me. My Instagram is Dr. Shelley, DrChelley. Um, my practice Instagram is underscore Pascal Chiro. Pretty easy to find me. Or you guys could email me at mpascal@lifewest.edu.
Sweet.
Yeah.